Welcome, everyone, to the SnapCast podcast with your hosts, Brad O'Brien and Mike Cooley.
Yo, homie,
If
what
this
is
your
up?
first time joining us, and you need to know what you're tuning into, let me just tell you. This is a Magic the Gathering podcast where we talk about magic and magic-related things. We're geared towards the casual Magic player with a very competitive interest in MTG finance.
So we're sort of like the Ollivanders of MTG. You know, like, you don't actually learn magic at Ollivanders, but you get your wand there.
Correct.
That's a Harry Potter thing.
Correct.
Sorry.
You want your wand? Stick with us. This is where it's
This
at.
this podcast might stiffen your wand.
Oh, I like what you did there. Hey, have you seen
Yeah.
the crazy stuff that's happening in the stock market this week? I don't know if you guys are invested in that, but trust me.
I hope not.
Yeah, we're gonna relate this to Magic, but holy hell, GameStop, what is up? What's
I'm trying
going
to think
on?
about every time I've ever actually walked into a GameStop, and I feel dirty thinking about it because I was always like going in there thinking, how can I get out of this place spending the least amount of money
Yes,
to get that used Sega disc or whatever it was at
Yep.
the time? Like, I just wanted to get out in there, trade a couple of games, get a different game, and get the hell out of there.
right.
And yet, they're like right up there with the big dogs now, baby.
New Tesla right here. Jesus.
The power of the masses at work.
Yeah, man, big old Reddit thread just driving the price of this up. Well, they noticed, to give you some background story here, they noticed that 150% basically of the company was shorted, meaning people had shorted the company for far more than it was worth. And I'm not going to explain what stock shorting is. Go check it out on YouTube. It's complicated. If I had to learn it this week. I had no idea what shorting was this week until the GameStop conundrum.
Until they pulled on your short and curlies.
Exactly. But either way, long story short, a whole bunch of people on Reddit just said, you know what? Well, we're gonna buy GameStop and hold it. We're gonna buy GameStop and hold it, dude.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I just drove the price of it up. Like, nobody's selling it. Good luck getting your shares back. That sort of thing. And now, this morning in the pre-market, dude, it got to like $490 from a $3 stock.
So
Insane.
without going into too much depth on what a short sell is, basically big wigs, big companies, big investors thought that this company was going to do poorly, and they bet against the company. And thousands of Redditors said, really? You're going to put yourself out 150% on the value of the company? We'll call your bet.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to buy it. The way it works is they end up having to buy the stock.
Right. Well, this is something that I learned, right? You could technically do this with Magic cards, right? You could make money off Magic cards with your friends by shorting Magic cards. You technically could, right? So let's say I go to Brad and I'm like, Brad, can I borrow a flooded strand from you?
Yeah, sure, Mike. No problem.
All right, thank you for this flooded strand. And what do I do with it? Immediately sell it for cash. Like, I sell this and I owe Brad a flooded strand, but I've sold the flooded strand that he gave to me for cash. And then a reprint is announced. The price of it goes down and I go and rebuy it for half what it was worth before. And then I say, hey, Brad, remember that flooded strand you gave me? Here it is back.
Here it is back. And I look and I'm like, that's not the same printing. But the principle holds that you get it while it's at a higher price, sell it, buy it back in when it's cheaper, and all that profit in between.
Right. Essentially, in the stock market, instead of buying a stock from the bank or from other people, you're essentially borrowing it. You're just saying, hey, I'm not going to pay you cash for this, but just let me borrow this stock and I'll pay you back. Like, you know what I mean? That's just, it's weird. It's so weird. You can definitely do it with Magic cards. I've never thought of that. And MTG finance, holy shit, can you imagine how crazy that would be? I mean, I wouldn't give a shit if you gave me a different flooded strand, as long as it was like same set and everything.
Yeah, I mean, Geez, Daddy, my goldfish died. No, it didn't. Here's another goldfish. It looks just like the other goldfish. The kid doesn't care.
Can you imagine doing that at like it brings a whole new perspective to your friends that might be asking to borrow cards before these big GPs or something? Can you imagine they go there and they're just like, all right, hey, I got to borrow this card for GP. And they go there and they just try to sell it for far more than it's worth. Someone who needs... oh man, I really need this flooded strand that you've borrowed off from Brad. I'll give you $100 for it. All right, well, here you go. I'm going to go buy another flooded strand off one of these vendors.
For $80.
And then I'm going to give it back to Brad when I'm done with it. Hey,
I'm going to take that $20 and buy lunch.
That's called shorting, my friends. And that's what happened to the stock market. You can definitely do it with Magic cards, but also... in the context of today, what do we think is the GME
of MTG?
MTG.
I just couldn't pass up on that title.
That was so good. Very crafty. Very crafty.
Yeah. Well, what is the unreasonable hype that the masses are pushing on? And we all know, and we spent way too much time talking about it last week, and we're going to spend more time talking about it this week.
Yep.
Wah.
But I'm telling you, it's really good, man. So last week, you might remember, we talked about the reserved list a bit. We kind of dug into that. And that is sort of the catalyst that acts as, it treats Magic cards as though they are shares of stock, right? Like, if Wizards is continually reprinting cards, it's like a stock raising capital. Have you ever seen that before? You ever seen a company when it raises capital? What it does is it introduces new shares into the market out of nowhere. We've introduced new shares of our company into the market.
Right,
you guys can buy them at this.
It lowers the average.
But now there's more shares. It's going to lower the average of it.
More
the reserve
people can
list,
get in more.
Yeah, the reserve list is more like the stock market because that doesn't happen every day.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't happen every day that
splits,
people raise. Yeah.
You don't sell. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that's sort of the thing, right? The reserve list allows you to treat these like stocks. And mind you, stocks that will never introduce new capital, will never do stock splits. And it's but still, some terrible companies are always terrible companies. Like, they're just, for example, you could have a penny stock that never does a stock split or never does any sort of capital offering at all. And they always remain a penny stock because they just don't have a lot of value. No one really wants them. No one's really behind them. And that's why you can still find some cards on the reserve list that are just dirt cheap, right? Like, because they don't have a lot of value.
I think the thing that every Magic player wants to do as far as reserve list cards is say, what is the diamond in the rough? What is the card that is, to use an example for a card that we have bought and recommended to buy to people on this podcast earlier, Dystopia. What's the Dystopia? What's the sub-dollar card that could go up 10 times?
Oh, yeah. You remember I talked about Powder Keg last night or last week? That went up too. What's the price of it now, dude?
It's like $10.
Jeez.
Almost $11.
Yep.
Well, and it's
insane.
So when we talk about the GME of MTG, GME, GameStop, was the headliner, but that was not the only upswell of Reddit pushed stocks, right?
It got to a point in the day on Reddit where you could go on that Wall Street Bets thread and just say a stock, and anybody who happened to be seeing it in that time was going to go buy it. I did it with TBLT, and I shit you not.
Was that on Reddit today?
No, it was on yesterday during the big, when everybody was watching it. It's so funny. Brad and I have been in this stock called TBLT, and I went on Reddit and I was like, you know what? I can post something too. Anybody who sees this, I wonder what they're going to do. So I literally posted the message. I just said, we're going to do TBLT next. That's all I said. I kid you not. Because we were already invested in it. Yeah, I was like, we're going to do TBLT next. And whoever saw that message in there must have been millions of people in that second that saw that message. Because literally less than a minute later, like, TBLT went from like 131 to 140. Like, which is a significant increase in a,
Statistically
$1.31.
significant.
Yeah, like it's very significant. And I was like, it's too easy to bump stocks today. I was like, you just got to go on this Reddit thread and say a stock, and everybody who's watching it that second who happens to see your message is going to go bin it, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
According
it was
to
crazy.
MTG stocks, powder keg is up to 1040.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure what was it when we were talking about it last week?
I thought it was around 7, but I think you had drawn my attention to the fact that it had gone up a little bit since then.
Let's see. I wonder if we can get. I'm interested.
Yeah. So, yeah, before we dive too much into that, I just want to talk about this, right? Like some things that we had mentioned last week, right? And I want to tie this GME thing to Magic cards so that you know kind of where we're going with this and why your boy Cooley is always about the reserved list. I don't care how cheap of a call it is. You can guarantee when I say something, that card on the reserved list will go up pretty significantly within the next year or two. Like
It's just always a safe bet.
it's always a safe bet, but also this is how I pick these reserve list stocks. Like I said, a shitty company is always going to be shitty, right?
Right.
But
if it has absolutely no value, it's not going to go up.
But the second somebody discovers some value in that company, and you're like, oh, I didn't see this. There's a new mechanic that no one's thought about since this reserve list, and bam, like suddenly that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the diamonds in the rough to get a very, very limited pool in the reserve list, but also for obvious reasons, the price of them's probably not ever going down, right? But either way, we had talked about, and this was how many months ago now? 6 months ago, I want to say. We did a special episode about Dystopia. And that card last week, when we said, if you remember, we were talking about it because it had spiked up to like 450 or something like that. And we were like, hey, man, that's like a, 300% gain. You might want to, that's better than most stocks that you could get into. That's pretty insane. But then on the topic of should you sell it, hands down, the answer is no. Right? Like, hands down, the answer is no. And I didn't sell mine when I saw it hit $4, even though that's a 300% increase. I didn't care that much.
This is weird. Market is almost 6, but average is closer to 1150.
Yeah, it's probably just different. It's probably just different. Qualities of the card, like near mint or whatnot, or
oh yeah, that's
just
true.
bringing it way up. But yeah, so like the average would be way higher because like some near mint copy out there of Dystopia is like $20. Like, you know what I mean?
And the rest of them are all selling for 6, 8.
Right. But yeah, like, so at this point, it looks like you can get it at market for about just under 6 this week. Whenever you see a reserved list card like this, it was $1.50 at one point. When we had originally suggested it was $1.50 easy. We said you could probably get it at $1, but you'd probably have to pay $1.50 then. When now that card is going up $1.50 in the week after it was already up 300%, let me tell you, there's something you have to realize about this card. And there's something that you can tie into GME and all of the BS that's going on right now, right? People are paying attention to it. Like, that's the big thing. People are paying attention to it. People's attention have been drawn to Dystopia. So, it is a valuable card.
Well,
it's a
and
very valuable card.
That's why when you pointed out Dystopia to me all those moons ago, I was like, okay, I'll get 3 or 4 play sets because I actually ran this in EDH for a while because it's almost never that you're playing Commander and somebody at the table, probably more than one. There's just always a green player. There's usually more than one. Everybody's playing nowadays.
Green or white.
Yeah, 3 to 5 color deck. Jesus Christ.
Right.
So somebody there's ban green, says Tech 4, after he gave us permission, by the way, to start the podcast now.
Oh, yeah, I see that. He finally showed up, so now we can begin.
15 minutes in.
No, we appreciate you, man. We just dive into it, too. A lot of times people, when they do live streams, they'll do like maybe 5-10 minutes of like stream will begin shortly or whatnot. It's weird to do that on YouTube because we know people go back and watch, you know what I mean? So we try to just dive into it. So we don't expect you to be ready, Andy, when we just, boom, we're starting it up right now. Oh, we know that there's not many people out there that are like, oh shit, I'm just waiting for this SnapCast podcast to go on today. But we know that there are some.
No,
and we appreciate you.
And you know, Mike comes over here and he could get here anywhere between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. And I may or may not cook this man the finest dinner he has all week.
The finest.
That's true. Andy did steal our stream and did a live stream playing Magic not that long ago.
What? Word? Yeah, he did.
He was playing that crazy blue combo deck again.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
If you haven't seen it, go back a couple of videos and you can see Tech 4 playing some bad Magic. Sorry.
You should steal our stream and come join us again. That was fun, man. But
so Dystopia.
Yes,
it was a playable card. That's what I wanted to get at before the introduction. Was when you first told me about this card, I thought this is totally a playable card, and especially because Muldrotha is so popular. Being able to say I'm not going to pay the upkeep, play it again, seems like a very good
it's ridiculous
line of play.
Because I mean, you can even play this. We talked about it in Muldrotha decks, but I mean, you could obviously play it in decks that don't run green or white, right? It's just cool.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, especially if you're used to playing like the tabletop commander, you can slam out Dystopia. Can you show them Dystopia? Can you bring that up too so that they know what we're talking about for the people that are watching on YouTube? Like, so, you know, this, just in case you're not familiar with it, it's a 3-mana enchantment with cumulative upkeep, 1 life. Right? So you can actually just choose not to pay it, and it's still pretty valuable, right? It's an enchantment that says during each player's upkeep, if they control a green or white permanent, well, then they sacrifice a green or white permanent. Just simple as that, man.
Yeah.
Like, so think of the ultimate value of this card. You're playing with 3 other players. You're playing a quad game of Commander.
Yep.
And you jam this out, and just everybody happens to be playing green and white, right? This is ultimate value of this card. During everybody's upkeep for 3 mana, everybody just sacrificed a permanent. And then it gets back around to you. Oh, you just happen not to have any green or white permanents out here. I'm not going to pay a life. I'm just going to sacrifice this. Or maybe I make you do it again, and I pay 1 life, and guess what? Next turn, you're going to do it again. It's so valuable, dude. It's so valuable. There's a lot of value in this card. We recognize that at $1.50. But that's what I'm saying, my friends, we should do for the reserve list. And I have a couple of picks for you this week that I think are pretty low, that a lot of people are not focusing on. They're not $1.50, but they're
not $100 either.
But they're not $100 either. Okay, so I want to stick on this theme of the Muldrotha deck, right? Because I definitely run this card in my Muldrotha deck, and it is on the reserved list. And it was a card you just had up if you wanted to show it to people.
I'm getting the other one ready already.
All right. So check this card out. This is one of my Snap This Ups this week. It is called Second Chance. Second Chance. It is on the reserve list. The market price, you can get these for about $8. Okay? Now listen here to what this card does. It's a 3-mana enchantment. I just love 3-mana enchantments, especially in Muldrotha. And it says, during your upkeep, if you have 5 or less life, sacrifice this enchantment and take an extra turn after this one. So you can see where we're going in the Muldrotha deck. It's infinite turns if you're ever below 5 life. You just win. If you're ever below 5 life and they pass the turn to you with this on the board, they lose. Everybody loses. You just take infinite turns. You just sacrifice it during your upkeep to take an extra turn. And then you cast Muldrotha, cast Second Chance. And then take my next turn. Oh, guess what? Second Chance is back. Guess I can sack it again.
So I want to play devil's advocate and show folks how I would, like, you put Second Chance on my radar. How do I do my due diligence on this stock?
So how do you do your due diligence on this stock? This is what I would say, right? It's not just Muldrotha that could potentially take advantage of this, right? Like, even if you just have cards in your deck that return a card to your hand from your graveyard, right? And you want to punish yourself with cards such as Doomsday, or, you know, so like Doomsday style decks where you just kind of go all in on one turn, and it's on your turn too, right? Like, it's on your turn. It triggers every single upkeep. It triggers. You could be at 20 life when the trigger goes on the stack, but if you have a way to put yourself at 5 life on that trigger, you will take an extra turn after this one. So, like, while that trigger's on the stack, bam, you do some fancy shit. Oh man, I just ad nauseamed. Like,
You totally went the wrong direction on me.
like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Mike, if you were trying to buy a stock, how would you do your due diligence on the company?
well, I would kind of do what I'm talking about, and it is you think about the things that could be. You try to find the value. You just try to find the value.
You don't go and look at their expense reports. You don't go look at their profit and loss. You don't find out about their management. You don't do research.
You got to look at that. Yeah. But how are you going to do that with a Magic card, dude?
So the first thing, well, let me tell you.
All right.
I will tell you how I'm going to do that, Michael.
All right.
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to TCG Player. And so this is my process for most of my serious picks cards. I go to TCG Player. You just buy GME, he says. All right, first thing I want to see is, can I actually get it for that price? How many can I get? Okay, looking on page 1, there's a $6, $7. There's a couple of $4 or $5 or $3 shipping. Really, this is a $7 to $10 card. But for that price, I can get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15, 16, 17, maybe 18 copies on page 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. There are a bunch of them out there. So one of the things that I worry about is, yes, when this card goes up to $10 or $12 or $15, there's a bunch of people that are going to sell them. We go to page 2, page 3. I'm looking to see where
that's
anybody that has a price that's jumped up. Okay, so page 4, we start seeing the $12, $13, $14 copies.
So this is where I gotta interrupt.
Go ahead.
Who says they're gonna sell them when they hit like $15?
People do.
I mean,
They're selling them at $6.30, Mike, right now.
Right.
So let me continue the research.
All right. I'll tell you more about what I mean there.
I don't give a shit.
But I'm just saying, if I picked that up for a Muldrotha deck and I needed it in Muldrotha,
you're going to keep it forever.
I'm going to keep it.
Right.
But
if you're trying to sell this as how this is finance and this is shorting and this is picking a value. So next thing I do is go to EDH Rec. It's only in 194 decks, which ends up being 0% out of 248,800. I can't read that number from here. 248,943 decks. Right. So it's in 194 of them. Now, in the top decks that it's in, Muldrotha, 85 decks. So this is a thing that people are playing it in enchantment decks. People are playing it in graveyard recursion decks.
Yep.
There's
no doubt.
4,832 Muldrotha decks on here. Only 85 of them know about it. And that's my take.
Yep.
Is that for most of these cards that are underplayed in EDH, it's because people don't know about it, or in a lot of these cases, they're just unaffordable. This is not an unaffordable card.
No.
So why are people not playing it?
Well, we saw the same sort of statistics when we looked up Dystopia, and it was not in a lot of decks, and there was a ton of copies out there. Like, you could buy, we said literally, we were like, you could get them easily for $1.50 right now. They're all over the place for $1.50, but you can get them for as low as $1. You know what I mean? People are going back and forth. All it takes
is for nerds to start specking on the reserve list.
All it takes is just one of these decks to
be popular,
to get on MTG top 8, or to some sort of catalyst that gets it in front of more people. And
somebody
lets them
plays
know.
this. If somebody played Dystopia on game nights, this would be a $50 card tomorrow, because really
100%.
that's what happened with the Thassa's Oracle wannabe demonic consultation, not demonic consultation, the other one.
The Tainted Pact wannabe demonic consultation. Yep.
Well, no, but Tainted Pact was actually played in game nights, which gets hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube, and the card shot up like crazy. Tainted Pact is now stupid.
Is it really? What is Tainted Pact up to?
So this says 75.36, but if we go over to TCG Player,
$85 for Tainted Pact.
Again, looking on page 1. Now here, there's only 2 pages of listings. We can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We can get 14 copies again, but they range between 75 and 90. Because this one has been bought out. Now
I think it's official. I'm selling my other 3. I kept a playset after my first sell-off at $35, $40.
Yeah.
I'm selling the other 3, dude.
You can. I mean, you're only going to play it in Commander.
Right.
You don't need more than 1.
Just going to keep the 1 copy, right?
Right. I mean, geez, if you sell your other 3, you can get 3/4 of a share of
GME. In case you guys don't remember, this is one card that I spec'd on at 50 cents. I bought a lot of these at 50 cents because of the value, man. I mean, it's not on the reserve list, but it's old.
And that's
a lot of value.
That's what we hope Dystopia will be. And again, they're not going to reprint Dystopia. So yes, if it gets seen, if it gets out in the public eye and actually gets played, it'll jump up.
You want to know why I spec'd on it though in the first place?
Why?
Showed up on a MTG top 8 commander deck. And I was
you were like reserve list card in a.
Well, no, it's not even reserve list. It's not reserve list.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
We're talking about.
It's like it showed up in a commander. And this was the thing. I saw it on MTG top 8. It showed up in somebody's commander deck, and I was like, "Well, isn't this just the most brilliant commander tutor ever? Like, if you're just going for 1 card for a win, like it's just brilliant. It's speed of an instant. It's 2 mana. Commander doesn't use any more than 1 card of any of the same name most of the time.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I was like, this is far more than 50 cents. At the time, I was like, this is probably like a $10 card. You know what I mean? But if they don't reprint it, they haven't reprinted it since Odyssey. And now you got $85 on your hand. Pretty insane.
So you talked about Second Chance. I think you had another card that you were also interested in that is a attainable reserve list card.
Yes. Second Chance is very niche, right? Like, it's very niche. It's definitely a Muldrotha card. All I'm saying is there's a lot of value in this, and it could be used. There could be mechanics. We always talk about this too. It's got an ear to the streets, right? There could be mechanics that come out that just bust this card.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There could be. But there is another one that Brad is talking about here that I've also said is a decent buy. By that, I mean very good buy. This is very good buy. This is Donate from Urza's Destiny. The card Donate. People use this as a verb in Magic the Gathering.
Yep.
People use this as a verb. It is a verb.
It's a brand name. It's the Band-Aid of this effect.
So you don't have to worry about people not knowing about the card. People know about this card. It's a friggin' verb in Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
It's Donate.
What's the card Harmless Offering do? Oh, it's a Donate.
It's a Donate. They basically reprinted it in a different color, right? But especially when they did that, they drew more attention to this mechanic of like donating a deadly permanent to your opponent, right? Donate Illusions decks were the thing back in the day. Like way back in the day, there was this deck. It was a blue deck. Just countered your stuff. Engaged in counter wars with Force of Will and all of this. And its whole game plan was just to slam an Illusions of Grandeur, which is a 4-drop enchantment. I shit you not. This was combo decks back in the day. 4-drop enchantment that just said, when this comes into play, you gain 20 life. And it had cumulative upkeep, something. And then it said, when it leaves play, you lose 20 life. So what would people do? They'd slam the enchantment, and then the next turn they'd donate it to you and be like, you got to keep paying this cumulative upkeep cost or you're going to die. Like, you know what I mean? They would benefit from the 20 life gain, and they donate it to you, and you would have to do something because when it left play, you were dead.
Yeah.
You couldn't even
so
destroy
pay
it.
The life,
you had to like pay the cumulative upkeep costs.
Yeah.
So it became like sort of a verb. Like people knew about it back in those decks, back in the day. But now that Harmless Offering is a thing, now that they keep printing these like Demonic Pact, like cards like Demonic Pact, all it's going to take is something that is good for you and deadly for you later.
Right. So
like that's all it takes.
They did. So there's Blim Comedic Genius, which is a partner commander. Let's see. We'll bring him up just because. Not blame. Don't autocorrect me.
Blim Comedic Genius.
2 Rakdos. Nope, this is not the new one.
Oh my gosh. That's so good.
Oh, he's not a partner. That's why. I remember I tried to play this guy and thought he was a partner.
Oh, yeah.
2 black-red flying. Whenever Blim Comedic Genius deals combat damage to a player, that player gains control of target permanent you control. You donate.
You donate something.
Yeah. Never mind. I thought that this guy was a partner. For some reason, I still had it in my head that this guy was a partner.
Well, still.
He doesn't have blue in his color identity.
I mean, you could. This is just more of a reason. I see where you're going with this. Yeah. This begs the question: do you run a Grixis donate deck?
Yeah.
Where you just slam shit like Demonic Pact and Illusions of Grandeur.
And counter spells.
And counter spells, and you just screw your opponent over, and then you just donate stuff to them. You know what I mean?
And this is, I'm not an EDH master. This was just the first donate EDH commander that came to my mind.
Oh, yeah.
There's probably others that I'm just not even privy to.
And so you can, here's the other thing why I think this is, if you had to pick one card, if you're like, Cooley, you're telling me to spend my last $10 this week, this would be the card I would tell you to pick, is donate. Because the donate mechanic, if you will, is on Wizards' radar. They keep printing cards that do that.
That work with it.
You know what I mean? That literally do exactly that. So when you print enough of them, people are going to start making commander decks around them. And when they do, guess what card they're going to want? The original donate. So I would say it's already on people's radar. It's a $9.50 card right now. It's on people's radars. It's got an ear to the streets. The more cards that they print that draw attention to that mechanic, and also that are good for you now and bad for you later, the more cards they print like that, really, really good with this card. It's got an ear to the streets. It's always listening for better Magic cards to be printed, and I think for sure right now, donate, good pickup at $9.50. I think you could see a treachery run out of this, and by that I mean treachery right now, also on the reserve list. It was also a $9.
Of course, that's the card that I want right now.
It was also a $9 card at one point, and it was used in some very fringe decks. You know what I mean? But now it's like $100. I think we could see another treachery run off from donate.
So, with all of those cards, especially when they're sub $10, don't get anything less than near mint. Because the difference between a near mint reserve list card and a slightly played or moderately played copy is going to be 60%.
100%, dude. That's yeah.
I should say it's going to be a 40% difference.
Yeah.
So if that goes up to $100, you're going to get $60 for your heavily played or moderately played copy.
I would agree. When you start speccing on especially reserve list cards, the condition matters a lot. And I would always say buy the best looking dual land that you possibly can at the time you're speccing on it, or the best possible looking reserve list card at the time you're speccing on it, because it's sort of like shorting GME stock, right? Here's the demand that gets created with the reserve list. Like, I'm going to short this stock, right? I recognize that GME is shorted 150% of what it's worth. I know there's not enough stocks out there to cover what you need to buy back. So there's a huge demand for it. I'm going to hold on to it. Same thing applies. People find these little niche builds in their commanders or whatnot. They're just like, yeah, I want that card. I want donate. Hey, it didn't work out in this commander. I actually went with a better card, or maybe I cut blue, or whatever they do. But they hold on to it because they recognize that value, right? The card has no choice but to go up at that point because they're holding it. They recognize the value.
So we just got asked in the chat, what do we think about Maskwood Nexus?
Bring it up.
So, of course, we're going to bring it up. This is a new card from Kaldheim, and I already just typed in my thoughts in the chat, which is basically, so this is the 4-mana creatures you control are every creature type. So we've already got this effect in Conspiracy and Arcane Adaptation, right?
Wow.
The thing that this does have is it does create shapeshifters.
Wow.
So,
see, this is I really like this card.
okay.
I really like this card because it breaks the color wheel. Breaks the color wheel.
There's no such thing as the color wheel anymore, but continue.
No longer. This is like a Future Sight style breaking of the color wheel, right? So before you had 5-drop cards such as Conspiracy that did things similar to this for more mana and a mana intensive investment of 2 black and 3 colorless. They changed all cards that aren't in play in your deck to a creature type you choose.
Yep.
Arcane Adaptation did it for cheaper. It was an enchantment. It did it for cheaper. But it was blue mana. If you weren't running a blue commander deck and you wanted to do that sort of thing, you were out of luck. But now,
for 1 mana more,
it breaks the color wheel.
has it.
Yeah, every single color can do it. And it generates you a token. Like I see that as like a bonus to this. Like 3 mana, you get a 2/2.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that I think you're paying the extra mana for, is optionality later. So to reiterate what I typed in the chat, I think it's cool. I think it's cute. I don't think it's going to do anything in standard. And so I think it's worth picking up copies for EDH in like 6 to 8 weeks.
Would agree.
Like, I'm looking at what they have this showing up on in Scryfall is like $5 pre-orders.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay $5.
$10 pre-orders for the full frame. And I just think there's going to be so much hype on this set that all of these rares, if they're not immediately played in Modern, Standard, Pioneer, this full art one will be $3 in 6 to 8 weeks.
I would agree. I would agree. I think that it will take people a while to realize the value in this card, but I think there is a lot of value in it.
Speaking of, while we're on this, cards that are going to be valuable in Kaldheim, if you are breaking the law and playing pre-releases this weekend, or you know people that are opening a bunch of product tomorrow, here is a card that I think people are not really paying attention to. So here's a card. This is another 4-mana card. Full art is pre-selling for less than Maskwood Nexus. Is a 3/3 flying vampire dragon.
What is this guy?
Immerstorm Predator.
Immerstorm.
Whenever it becomes tapped, exile a card from a graveyard. Up to 1. So even if graveyards are empty. So, okay, if you swing with this, you can snag a card out of somebody's graveyard.
Interesting.
If after it becomes tapped, you put a +1 counter on it. So this attacks as a 4/4.
Okay. Meets the vanilla test, if you ask me.
Yeah. If somebody goes to, say you play this on 4 and it doesn't have haste, and somebody goes to remove it, sacrifice another creature, you tap it, and it gains indestructible. But when it becomes tapped, you exile a target card from a graveyard and put a counter on it. So if somebody tries to remove this on your turn, you give it indestructible, grow it to a 4/4, and eat a card out of their graveyard.
Oof. Forcing them to have an exile spell.
Forcing them to have an exile spell. I did read the release notes on this. You know, like most of these effects, you can give it indestructible again if they respond, but you're not going to get the becomes tapped trigger twice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it has already become tapped. but you will get the +1/+1 counter after the stack resolves.
Uh-huh. Kawa says, new standard deck, more absurd than Omnath ramp is Teamer Legends ramp. Give me a card, man. Let me know what card we should be looking at here, and I'll go check it out.
But Immersturm Predator, I don't think people are going to be, when they crack their packs this weekend, people are not going to be trying to hold on to this. This is one that will probably also go down to $2 in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Then I think it's a Vampire Dragon. Is 2 awesome EDH creature types.
You can cheat it into play with, what's his face? Sorin.
Oh, yeah.
You can drop Sorin turn 3 and then just dump this guy into play.
So something that I want to give Mike some credit for. It's not Search for Greatness. What was that card called? Okay, we're going for a...
Quest for Greatness, or is
Mythic
it...
Spoiler, green... Y'all know what I'm talking about. In Search of Greatness. Okay, Mike was hot on this card. I was not so hot on this card. Let me tell you why I changed my mind.
Yes.
Because it's not legendary, so you can have multiples, and they put 2 triggers on the stack on your upkeep. And they will check, but in that case, if you had 2 of these out and lands, you could play a 1-drop and a 2-drop before you played anything else.
Wow.
Why else do I think that these are great? Because this set is full, and the last set is full of modal double face cards that have different CMCs.
Oh my God.
So you have cards like the Valky God of Lies that is 2 mana on the front, but 7 mana on the back. So you can have, and that was the thing that I was concerned about making this card work, is actually having a range of CMCs to always be able to play something. With these modal double face cards, they gave you the tools to always have a card that's going to meet the criteria of 1+.
What? Dude, so, okay, are you telling me, do I understand this correctly? If I have a 1-drop on the field, I can cast the Planeswalker side of what's his...
No. Okay. You can cast the Valky side.
Okay.
No. That doesn't break that. That would be
busted.
That would be busted.
That would be extremely busted.
Kinnan, Goldspan Dragon, Magda. Ugh. Yeah. Uber mana. So Goldspan Dragon is the 5-mana dragon with haste that when it attacks or becomes targeted, it makes a treasure.
Ooh.
But it makes all of your treasures tap for 2 mana. I did see
tap for 2 mana
or sack for 2 mana. Sorry, sack for 2 mana.
Wow, that'd be nasty.
Yeah, no, if you could tap your treasures, holy crap.
Oh shit. Yeah, that's good, man. I mean, all of those ramp decks are just looking for bombs to Genesis Ultimatum into.
I watched Palavito Dharma kick, beat up on, I think it was PVDDR, kick up on Saffron Olive for a minute, playing that deck with counterspells. It was like blue-red treasures.
Ooh.
And using the foretell counterspell, playing the dragon. So swing in, make a treasure. My treasure taps for 2, which is enough to cast the counterspell. So if they try to kill it, you will automatically get another treasure. If they try to bounce it or something else, you just cast the
casted
Convert
counterspell.
Go Blues video.
Can you pull up Convert Go Blues video?
Are we pulling up videos?
Yeah, we'll check her out. We'll check her out here. Is this? I can imagine this is something that's
and what is it? It's Teamer
that talks about some Teamer Ultimatum stuff. Covert Go Blue Teamer Adventures. Teamer. That was 5 months ago.
Let's look at this week.
Yep.
Another Omnath.
Teamer Legends ramp. Yep. Wow. Oh, there's an ad playing in the background.
Go figure. All right, for those of you that are listening, we are playing a video on YouTube. We're going to watch this guy play some Teamer Legend ramp. I'm going to jump right into the middle of it just to see what the broken stuff is.
Yeah,
we try to draw into something to get the Purphoros into play.
Yeah, show them what we're looking at over on YouTube.
Man, I don't want to lose like this.
I'm so worried about the people listening that I'm not worried about the people on YouTube.
Right. Yeah, mute the audio too, so we don't get we don't flag this guy for copying all of his content. we're checking this out. So he's right now. What is that worth, by the way? Is that a
Yeah.
specky card right there?
I think so. I mean, it's going to be played in every Dragon Commander deck forever, but
I mean, it's
are
such
they
a
just going to
bump.
reprint it? You know, it's the same. Like today, I was honestly thinking, with all of the hype around treasures, do I sell? What's the goblin that makes treasures for all the artifacts? I have the brain of a goldfish right now.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The goblin gives you, for every artifact and enchantment, it gives you
a treasure. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what it's called either.
What the
But
hell
it's
is
a
it?
cool card.
He's on a.
So this guy's on Teamer Adventures. He just Genesis ultimatumed into some
It's
crazy
Teamer
stuff.
Legends. And so he's got a bunch of gods out. He's got Magda, Terror of the Peaks. And he lost.
Yeah,
Well, that was maybe not
nice example. We just tuned into him losing one match. I see where the deck is going though.
Yeah.
I see where it's going. They're just trying to ramp into some crazy stuff. And we now have more crazy stuff. Let's look up those cards. That's
Dockside Extortionist. Thank you, Andy.
Hey-o.
Dockside Extortionist. That's pushing almost $50 right now. And even though that's in my EDH deck and it's only ever been printed once, that dude's going to catch it's going to catch a reprint. It's going to be in the list, or they're going to put it in a ancillary product.
100%.
100%. There's no way
That's
that
a
they're going to let
snap
that.
sell. Is it?
I don't know. Like, it's not in this set. It's not going to be in Time Spiraled Remastered. So their chances to reprint it are probably 3 or 4 months off. Secret Lair EDH staples. And that is the scariest thing. Like, they absolutely could just pull out a Secret Lair out of their ass that is, hey, here's a card that's selling for a bunch of money. What are you trying to do there? Other side.
There we go. I'm trying to exit out of it in case it's like lagging us so that we're like
delaying.
Yeah.
So you had 2 snaps this up. So you talked about Second Chance. You talked about Donate. My 2 snap this ups. My official GME of MTG for this coming season.
You've got a GME stock for us here? Please tell me more.
I do. And this came up with a discussion with a friend of mine, Dan, and we were talking about Drannith Magistrate. And part of it was we were talking about I have a full art foil in my Gaddock Teague deck that I got on like release weekend. I traded somebody for nothing. That's worth suddenly a bunch of money. And I'm like, why is this? And I just want to bring it up. This is not to brag, but what I want to show is when the full art version of this card is $23, $24, $25, $26, $29. The 5th copy on here is $29.
Yep.
For a card that really hasn't seen much play in Standard, somebody's playing the crap out of this card. Somebody sees this card as valuable.
So you think this is a good buy at like $3 if you can get two or $3 if you can get one of these still?
So I think you can get the regular extended art for about $6. You can get a regular pack copy for about $3 or $4.
Okay.
Your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands.
Can I just say I love how blatantly ignorant White is getting. I love anybody who knows me knows that I just love ignorance. I find it very funny. And I feel like this text on this is so ignorantly in your face.
Tech 4, I might have just made this card $9. Your opponent is counting on the fact that they're playing the Wrath card for Foretell. They're like, oh, I'm going to get a 3-mana Wrath because I paid 2 mana up front to foretell this stupid card. And I'm saying no. Andy says no, for real, refresh. Which one are we talking about? The extended art non-foils?
I might have just made this card $9.
Let's look at the...
Yeah. But either way, like it's this so I say ignorantly. It doesn't care what you're doing. It has like a reverse ear to the streets, right? All your fancy abilities you want to come out with, they'll let you cast cards from other places than your hands. Fuck that shit. You're not doing it.
You want to cast a companion? No.
Nope.
You want to cast a card that was foretold? No.
Right.
You want to cast a card that has an ice counter on it that's over in exile?
Or the time counter, yep.
No, there's a card in this set that
yes.
exiles your...
Yep. Oh, man. Well, it wouldn't stop companions necessarily, but...
Yes, it stops... Oh, because they changed the companion rule.
They changed the companion mechanic, but... Still, any of these fancy new abilities that allow you to cast cards from somewhere other than your hand. Drannith Magistrate says, oh no, buddy. F you.
F you. You are not using the foretell mechanic. So I think Drannith Magistrate, because white is actually looking like potentially playable in the upcoming standard. And because I heard again... on the news today that even though we're a little bit behind in vaccinating, they do expect to have something like more than a third of the U.S. population vaccinated by the summer. That tells me we might actually be able to play. Is Cooley drunk? Yeah. Well, he showed up with a nasty headache and had a couple of drinks. We're always imbibing here at the SnapCast podcast.
Got to do it. I also pulled out my inner Randy Marsh for that expression.
Okay, so I said I had 2 cards for you. If you average out the cost of my 2 cards, you get to Cooley's $10 average.
Oh man.
Dude, I've played this card now in Commander a few times.
Yeah, so good.
This card is so busted.
Yeah.
Thassa, Deep Dwelling. I really like the showcases. I think they're beautiful. It is a 4-mana, 6/5, indestructible, legendary enchantment creature god. As long as your devotion to blue is less than 5, Thassa isn't a creature. These are super easy to turn into a creature. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 other target creature you control, and then return it to the battlefield under your control. That would be more than enough for a card printed before 2019. But this card was printed after 2019 and has another line of text.
No room for flavor text. We got to cut that out.
3 and a blue, tap another target creature, and chef's kiss. There is nothing sweeter than getting out this on turn 3 because you played a mana rock, and then on turn 4 you play your sad robot and go get your land and pass the turn, and at the end you blank your sad robot and you go get another land.
Oh my god. Yep, that's pretty good. But it's not just sad robot. There's a ton of cards you can blink, dude. And here's the thing that I like about this is that there have been decks built in the past in EDH that revolve around blinking your own creatures. So for example, this fits right into a Rubinia deck, right? Have you guys ever heard of Rubinia?
Gesundheit.
Rubinia. So Rubinia takes control of a creature until Rubinia untaps. But if you happen to take control of it and flicker it and return it to the battlefield under your control,
it never untaps.
It never leaves your control.
It's a new object.
It never leaves your control. So this goes right into Rubinia, and all of the decks that have been trying to do that in the past, you now have a new flickering outlet other than Conjurer's Closet that's going to continually do it. I really like that. And Conjurer's Closet, again, might be very, very niche, but I think we might see a run similar to like a Kozilek Butcher of Truth run here, where like it came out and people were like, nah, I'm not paying $25 for that.
And now
I paid $25 for that. I was like, this card is nasty. It went down to 10. And I was like, no, it's still a sick card for a lot of reasons. And now just boom, through the roof because people realize the value in it. And especially in this showcase version of this card, that's not going to be, they're not probably reprinting a showcase version of this card.
So
You know what I mean?
my snap this ups for this week are Thassa, Deep Dwelling. Get whatever version you want to put your money into. I'm not picky. I do like the showcase versions. Our Heliod's finally caught up with us, so I don't feel guilty about that anymore.
Not at all, man. We knew it would.
And Draneth Magistrate. White's going to be played. I still have my fingers crossed that people are going to be in their friendly local game store come October, November, the last months of Standard. The last thing that we wanted to talk about before leaving today. Do you own a Google Pixel 3? Do you own a Galaxy Note 10?
Well, let me tell you why we're asking you.
Do you own a Huawei P20 Pro, whatever the hell that
What
is?
is that, dude?
Huawei Mate 30 Pro 5G.
So we're naming off of a couple of phones that you must own if you want to play. We should start with the good news. I feel like we're throwing this in the shitter
That was the plan. That's what I was trying to do.
Before it even gets here. The good news is
I can't play this shit on my phone.
here's some good news this week, right? Magic the Gathering Arena is on mobile. It's live. You can play it on mobile. That's awesome. They did a great job of designing it. Single click, click drag stuff. Awesome interface. You can play it on your mobile phone now. Now let us throw it into the shitter and tell you.
You have to have one of 20 phones that will play it.
You have to have one of, it's a 2 gigabyte game. 2 gigabytes. And now I'm gonna sound like an old man here for a second, but I remember days where my phone having 2 gigabytes of storage space on it was insane. I was like, oh sweet, I'll never get that message anymore that says your phone space is running out because of all the pictures and videos you take. And I was like, 2 gigs, man, that's awesome. And now it's like this game alone is going to demand 2 gigabytes of storage. Insane, man. Insane. There's literally a list of phones you need to have to be able to run this. This is similar to Blizzard's announcement of Diablo Immortal. Well, you guys don't have phones? No, it's no. For a different reason, it kind of lost interest. But for this, it's no, we don't want to have to buy a new phone to play your friggin' game.
No.
Yeah, I mean, as time goes on, people will get better phones, no doubt.
But it might be hire better programmers.
But be prepared to have to buy a new phone if you're an old school OG like myself. And I stick with the same phone for 4 or 5 years until it shits out.
I won't tell you the brand of phone that I'm staring at right here because we use it as our camera. But it's a Model 7, and they just recently came out with a Model 12. So I'm almost halfway through.
Man.
They've almost had as many models afterwards.
But it is really cool, though. I will say it's super cool that Arena is coming to mobile. I think it's super cool that, when the OGs like myself finally decide to buy a new phone, I'll be able to download Arena and play it.
Play it in the crapper.
That is sick. I absolutely love that. I think that's big for Magic the Gathering.
I think is true.
It's going to draw big attention to Magic the Gathering, which will indeed bring Magic card prices up. And for that, we can all be thankful.
It's interesting. Actually, so Andy is the first person to comment on here that he can play it on his phone. And he says, knowing how bad Arena can run on PC, I have bad feelings about it.
Interesting.
We should try and get him over here next week for a report on how Arena Mobile works.
Yeah, try it out, man. Let us know how it works.
He also owes us a dinner.
Oh!
So I said that was going to be the last thing, but I have one more thing that I want to share, which is a post from our resident fish player, Zach Moeller, who posted some screenshots on Facebook of an interaction we talked about last week, which is the Mystic Reflection and Master of Waves effect.
We literally talked about that playing fantasy Magic in our heads.
Last week when we were talking about Mystical Reflection and saying, okay, Master of Waves, trigger on the stack, Mystic Reflection, choose Master of Waves. Every Master of Waves token from the trigger comes in as a Master of Waves, and then triggers again. Now that's where it stops. You can't go infinite with that sort of thing.
But
Mystical
still.
Reflection says the next time creature would enter the battlefield. So it just gets the first set of tokens, changes them into Master of Waves, then they all make tokens.
But essentially doubles the amount of tokens that it makes, right?
Oh, no. So if you have a Master of Waves that's going to make 5 tokens, you get 5 more Master of Waves that each make 5 tokens.
No, because now they make...
Now they make
ones
for the other 4.
With yeah, exactly.
Oh God, they each make 9 or whatever.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So
and it goes really buck wild if you're also playing Risen Reef.
yeah,
So here's a screenshot where you can see all of the Risen Reef triggers going off from all of the elementals that entered the battlefield, from all of the Master of Waves.
wow.
Pretty wild that we talked about that last week, and
Here it is. Someone's doing it. God, that's nuts. Can you bring up that card one more time and let's just show
Reflection?
let's just show people what we're talking about on Mystic Reflection.
Reflection, MTG.
It's also secretly to remind me what the mana cost is. 2 mana.
Well, it's only 1 blue if you foretell it.
God damn. So you can foretell it for
2 mana, you exile it face down.
Wow.
You hope that your opponent isn't playing Drannith Magistrate, and then later on you can play blue.
So for 1 mana in its absolute most abused state, choose target non-legendary creature. The next time 1 or more creatures or planeswalkers enters the battlefield this turn, they enter as copies of the chosen creature. Oh my god. So good. Even if you have to play that for 2, man, that's so good.
Yeah, it's totally doable. This is an all-star card. Like I didn't look at the pre-sale price, $10 to $12. Yeah, I mean, I always assume these cards are going to get cut in half. I don't think that this is going to tank sub 5.
But here's the thing in Fish too, is this such a value play because you have another 2 mana lord, right? You turn all of your dorks
into 2 mana lords.
Or not dorks, so you shouldn't call them dorks, but like the cards that get worse, like Curse Catcher, as the game goes on, they get worse. You can be like, oh, well, I have this Curse Catcher that I drew, but shit, I have this Mystic Reflection. So I already, I got this on turn 2. I played my not Master of Waves, but my Lord of Atlantis, and then I cast this guy, and then in response cast this. And make him come in as another lord.
And the cool thing is this says enters the battlefield, so you can also Vial trigger, cast Mystic Reflection, Vial in, and have it come in as whatever you want.
Oh my god, that's so nasty.
Yeah.
That's so nasty.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why I got a hard-on that lifted one leg of this table up last week.
Yeah, this card's good, man.
We love hanging out with you guys. We love shooting the shit with you and interacting with you in the chat. Come back next Thursday. Sounds like we're going to have Tech 4 over here with a report on how playable Arena is on mobile. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you prefer to listen to your podcasts on your phone, on your drive to work, we are available on most major audio podcast players. And if you don't find us on the one that you like, send me a message. Also, follow us or follow me at the SnapCast Pod on Twitter for some midweek picks. Earlier this week, I noticed that Twilight Prophet foils, pack foils, were almost non-existent. There are only 5 listings on TCG Player the other day, and they ramped up quick from $40 to like $70.
Yep. Good midweek pick, man.
At the SnapCast Pod is me, Brad O'Brien, and sort of the cast in general. You got Cooley at Cooley with 3 O's on Twitter. You can find out about nothing because he doesn't tweet.
I'm with that new technology, tweeter.
You can also find him on Twitch.
Yeah, man, same thing. Cooley with 3 O's.
You can also find
YouTube.
His YouTube. Yep, go ahead.
Cooley with 3 O's. Do a lot of Diablo content. So if you happen to be watching this and you're a big fan of Diablo 2, go ahead and tune in, man. We do a lot of PvP and a whole bunch of other videos.
If you're a big fan of Diablo 2, it may be time to get checked for colon cancer. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, you might be of a certain age.
Very true. Sad but true. Thank you guys so much. See you next week.
Woo!